Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's time for reference to one of Lewis's favorite Zelda games, the Color Switch Dungeon.
Yeah, we got the DX version, so if you got the regular version of Mario Wonder, this stage doesn't exist.
Okay, I'm gonna confess something to you guys. I never played the DX version of Link's Awakening back in the day. I mean, I never played it through to the end. I did have it at one point, but the version of Link's Awakening that I played and got all the seashells and shit in was the original.
Wow.
Was it just because, like, were you an early adopter, or was it just the version that you just had access to?
It's the version that I had access to, and I was an early adopter because I had a Game Boy.
Yeah, because the Game Boy Color version of that came out, like, what, in 1998 or so? Because I remember my first Game Boy was a Game Boy Color, and I got mine in, like, 98, if I remember correctly. It was right before Pokemon Stadium came out.
I mean, I didn't really get a Game Boy Color until later, but I played a lot. I played a fair few RPGs on the Game Boy Pocket. Final Fantasy Legend 3 was my jam for the longest time.
That's the one that's actually Saga, right? Or is that one a Mana game?
I don't remember which of the two was it, like what I think it was Final Fantasy Adventure that was a Mana game.
Yeah, because I know that for both Mana and Saga, they named them Final Fantasy because they didn't trust the games to sell without branding that people recognize.
Yeah.
Even though they played nothing, neither series plays anything like Final Fantasy.
Well, Final Fantasy Legend 3 was Final Fantasy-ish enough that I could get behind it. But, like, but Adventure was just an action RPG. It was basically weak sauce Zelda. Or at least it felt like that to me.
Okay, in that case, that's probably Mana, because I believe Mana is the more action-y.
It's like, the earlier you get into the Final Fantasy Legend series, the less Final Fantasy it feels. But, like...
Well, because they were never Final Fantasy games.
Well, yeah, but, like, it just feels more distinctly like something different in the first two games. Because they were a lot older and clunkier. Final Fantasy Legend 3, the story was based around a world that was flooded, and like the entire structure of the game was built around this airship that looked like a stealth bomber that you were upgrading as you went through the game. So the fact that the game was based around an airship vehicle kind of helped it feel more Final Fantasy, because I always associated that airship thing.
It was kind of weird how, like, the third Legends game, like, centers on a world that's flooded, and the third Final Fantasy game proper also had, like a big focus was the flooded world.
Yeah.
That you eventually pull the plug on and, like, drain all the water. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
It also helped that Final Fantasy Legend 3 had, like, a preset roster of characters for your party, where I think the first Legend game, at least, did not have that. I think you actually, like, sort of created your characters. It's been a while since I played it, so I might be misremembering. But all three of the games had this sort of monster transformation thing going on, I think. At the very least, Legend 3 had it.
The one immediately, like, trait that I can identify a Saga game with is just how many playable characters you have access to.
Really?
Yeah, because years ago I did a sponsored video on the latest Romancing Saga game.
Oh yeah.
That was a thing. And I was taken aback by how many new playable characters I was recruiting that had nothing to do with the plot. They were just dudes that you could recruit.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I think Suikoden, I've never played Suikoden, but I believe that game also
I
has,
don't
like,
know anything
50
about the
playable
series
characters.
specifically, but the Trails games by Falcom, I think the name
Yes.
of the developer is.
Yes.
Is they do that too. They will, like, I was watching Nora finish one of the games a couple of days ago, and the final boss arena is just main protagonists with, like, the football team of that fucking like area. Like, there's so many characters.
Okay, the thing about the Trails series, though, is that, like, all the characters are story relevant, but all the games across the entire series are interconnected. So you get to the like back end of the series, and it's Avengers Endgame levels of having a massive roster of recurring characters.
Can you imagine if Final Fantasy interconnected with each other? Like, that is just mind blowing.
Yeah, that's what's it called? Disgaea?
Dissidia.
Oh no, Disgaea is a different RPG series.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say this guy is the cartoony tactical RPG with like the demon people and stuff.
Man, how could you ever get that confused? Oh, wow.
I don't deserve to call myself a BrainScratch.
Yeah, it's almost like getting Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest confused. Man, who could do that?
I thought for some reason you were going to say Dragon Ball. And it's like, oh, you're not terribly off.
And Dragon Power.
You know what the weird thing about the Dragon Warrior branding is that they accidentally used up their Dynasty Warriors spinoff title.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah, and then they had to go with the not nearly as cool Dragon Quest Heroes when it actually happened. If I remember correctly, it was a legal issue because there was I believe like a D&D campaign called Dragon Quest and they didn't want to get in trouble with Wizards of the Coast, so they were like, we'll just change it.
You know, it might have been Hero Quest. I'm not sure. Hero Quest is a sort of D&D light board game that got a re-release in recent years, which is good. It means I don't have to spend $300 to get the original.
Dude, I've never, like, only when I'm watching, like, old board game YouTube videos do I realize that, like, if you played some obscure board game as a kid and it got, like, lost in a garage sale or something and you just don't have it anymore, it would, A, be practically impossible to find out what that game was, and B, it would be a nightmare to try to get another copy because of how, like, with all the pieces and all that, like, it's got to be miserable, I would imagine.
I'm loving these stupid flowers.
Dude, they're so good. And they're really easy to mod, so you can have one say, Sans, and then go do it.
You know what's great, though? That the presence of these fucking flowers makes this the Mario game with the most voice acting out of the entire series. Just these fucking flowers.
It is interesting because Nintendo was so afraid of... This was actually something that I saw in the comments. This is the first Mario game, mainline Mario game, I believe, in like 10 years or something like that, to get new voice clips for a lot of these characters.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the existence of the flowers is directly connected to that. Like, because they realized they'd have to do new voice acting anyway, they decided, you know what? Let's do something fun with the voice acting that's not just yahoos and wahoos, and we got the flowers because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. You can't ever be sure about anything, but I do appreciate that they care more. Apparently, Princess Peach Showtime doesn't have any new voice clips for Peach, is what I read. And of course, this is the very, very, accurate and correct YouTube comments, so they could be talking out of their ass, and I wouldn't know either way. But it is about... It's like Nintendo has always seemed very afraid of voice acting.
Ever since Sunshine.
Yeah, basically since Sunshine. And I mean, they did get better about that with like... Are
we talking strictly like Mario?
Well, with their main properties.
Yeah.
Because I would say, starting with Breath of the Wild, they started being less of...
Yeah, like that's part of why it was such a big deal in Breath of the Wild. But like, if you have stuff that's developed by other studios, like Xenoblade has its very British and annoying voice acting. I'm sorry. But if I need to hear another, now it's runtime, but we mustn't be careless. Wait, oh God. They never shut up. Oh my God.
I think a better example, if you want to go for like a Nintendo property with good voice acting, would be Fire Emblem Three Houses, which
the Fire Emblem games all had solid voice acting. There wasn't a ton of it on the 3DS games just because of space limitations, but the stuff that was there was solid.
Three Houses has like a redonkulous amount of voice acting. Like even Engage and Three Hopes both both decided that Three Houses had too much voice acting and didn't include quite as much. But like even the throwaway NPCs at the monastery every month have individually voiced lines for everything that they say.
Greetings, Professor.
That voice actor is the reason the Gatekeeper is such a goddamn meme. I swear it.
He got his own card in the card game.
There's a Fire Emblem card game?
In Japan, yes.
Oh, figures.
It even references the stupid boulder guy in Path of Radiance.
Did the Abyss Keeper also get one? You know, the cheap off-brand Gatekeeper in the Abyss who says he has something to report instead of saying nothing to report?
I have no idea. I just know the Gatekeeper has one.
But I think by the time they got to doing the Abyss content, they knew that people liked the Gatekeeper because they made a parody of the Gatekeeper in the same game.
Three Houses is a game I should play eventually. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I've also just not been in the mood for Fire Emblem. Really? Oh, yeah, you're pissed off about that. 2 seconds. I just haven't been in a mood for Fire Emblem for a long time, actually. And ironically, it wasn't Fates that broke me. It was Shadows of Valentia. That was the game that got me burnt out on Fire Emblem.
Engage got me a bit burnt out on Fire Emblem as well.
It is based on an older Fire Emblem game to begin with, so I can imagine.
It's based off of the black sheep of the series, so that's why.
Yeah, it's just like, so the thing is that like everybody was talking about like, oh, the story in this game is really good, and it's done well, but it's just like there's these town sections that go on for forever, and nothing that you do in them is interesting. And then there's these dungeon sections where you just walk in a straight line and nothing you do is interesting. And then there's these random fights in the dungeons where everybody's just standing in the line and you ram your units into the other enemy units and nothing you do is interesting.
Also, the magic
system is busted. And then you get to the scripted fights where there's supposed to be tactical strategy to positioning, but they're also all just in empty fields, so nothing you do is interesting. Did I mention that I don't think that Shadows over Valentia is a very interesting game? Because it's not. It's boring.
The way you're describing it just makes it sound like discount Shining Force. Which is...
I mean, I haven't played Shining Force yet, but I might at some point.
Shining Force is basically Fire Emblem, but with RPG town exploration and the occasional odd, like, very short dungeon to go through on your way through. But it's designed by developers who know how to design regular RPGs good, because, you know, Golden Sun. So,
the Golden Sun developers did Shining Force?
Yeah, all the Shining games up until Shining Force 3, I want to say.
I did not know that.
You can fucking tell because they use the same user interface in all of their games. You know.
So the people who made Shining Force also made the Mario Golf games?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Also the original Hot Shots Golf or Everybody's Golf if you're in one of the other regions.
Well, that makes sense because Mario Golf and Hot Shots Golf are literally the same game, except one has Mario characters.
And one has fun characters that you actually want to play as in a golf game.
It's just baffling to me because it's like finding out that the Mexican restaurant that you go to and really like and the Italian restaurant that you go to and really like both have the same head chef, and it's like, I didn't think that it would be like that.
Yeah, well, you can definitely see the Golden Sun style evolving, especially during the Saturn era. If you look up, like, any given battle footage of Shining the Holy Ark, it's like, wow, this is absolutely proto-Golden Sun.
What has Camelot been doing?
I think they're defunct now, actually.
Oh, God, don't tell me that. Please don't. Camelot Software Planning.
They're dead. God damn.
The last game they did was Mario Golf Super Rush.
I think the only reason that some people don't know that the Golden Sun guys did the Shining games is because they had different names over the course of their history. I think they were called Sonic Software Planning back then.
Yeah, so I'm looking up the Camelot Wikipedia page. and I'm skimming it, and there's a line where they said they would then provide assistance on Sonic's next game, Shining the Holy Ark, and I'm like, very confused because I thought they meant Sonic the Hedgehog.
It was confusing back in the day too, because you would see presented by Sonic or something like that at the beginning of a Shining Force game. It's like
the Camelot,
Sonic team?
The Camelot Japanese website is still up, and the freaking Golden Sun guy is on their like front page of their website, along with what I assume is a Digimon character. Their website's very like 2009, for the record.
Let me see. Camelot software planning. Oh, good. Thank you, Google.
So this is the Japanese website, which there was just a link to in the on the Wikipedia page. But yeah, it doesn't look like they're defunct yet. We just don't know what they've been working on since Mario Golf.
Let me see what character it is. Okay. Camelot software planning.
Yeah, the last RPG they did was Golden Sun: The Lost Age.
Yeah, that's...
Ever since then, it's been Mario Golf, one We Love Golf, and then Mario Tennis. And that's... Oh, no, they did Dark Dawn on DS. Okay. That was kind of like pushed in there a little bit. But yeah, it's been 14 years since they've done an RPG.
We need a new Golden Sun game.
We need a new Shining game. Like, an actual new Shining game, and not those in-name only bullshit games.
We just need games.
Look, you know, I don't want to be a curmudgeon, but New Shining is such a goddamn identity-free series that it's actually kind of dazzling. Like, the one Shining game you can get on Steam is Shining, what is it called? Dissonance Refrain or some shit. I have it on my list. I'm just too lazy to look it up. And, like, the gameplay is Diet Tales of, and the art style is done by a genuinely good character designer who I think only has credits in Eroge. So, basically, the only character design element you get out of any of the characters is character design. Trademark. Which is the kind of thing I associate with Fire Emblem Engage, actually. Where they're just designed to be like wacky ass anime characters, and they don't really have any like real substance to their character design.
But don't you love the Dragon Fan Club?
Okay, don't riff on Clan and Fram. Okay, I genuinely like those two characters, but like, what region of the world does any given character in the roster belong to? I can't tell by looking at them, and that bothers me. You know?
Isn't the whole point of Engage though that it's just like a greatest hits of Fire Emblem's past?
Yeah, basically.
Well, yeah, but that's what the emblems and the bond rings are for. The characters in the actual setting should feel like they belong to the actual setting. And they don't. They feel like random-ass character designs that popped out of a gacha. But, like... Shining Resonance Refrain is that times 12, and it seriously bugs me, because Shining Force had, like, even more so than Fire Emblem, a very unique kind of setting identity. Like, how many fucking RPGs can you name that include centaurs as a major feature, alongside beastmen?
Yeah, Fire Emblem, honestly, one of the issues that I have with many of the games in the franchise is that they feel, like, the settings feel pretty generic. It's like, not even just, like, compared to each other, like, just in general. It's like, oh, here's the fantasy bandits and fantasy high kingdoms and maybe some dragons.
Well, you know, to a point, that works. It can help with the tone. And Fire Emblem does generally tend to keep itself to a fairly down-to-earth tone, because that's the story tone that the original creators were going for. They were looking at series like Mobile Suit Gundam and whatnot when they were trying to decide how to do story. But the thing is, like, even within that framework, Fire Emblem does have some pretty unique setting shit going on. Just look at the Tellius games. The Tellius games are amazing about that.
You see, I'd like to look at the Tellius games, but you need a mortgage in order to even glance at them. So,
just Dolphin.
Yes, I was gonna say, make
What are
like
these games?
make like Tifa and Dolphin kick that
GameCube
shit.
games, the Ike ones, Path of Radiance and Radiant.
Oh,
Dawn.
okay, we're still Fire Emblem. All right.
Yeah. I know that when you hear the words Fire Emblem, your brain
Yeah, I
goes into
zone
sleep
out.
mode, John.
Put me to sleep. Hunk Shu.
You've played like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff, though, right?
I've sampled Tactics years ago,
okay.
but I was barely a teenager.
Oh, I see. Not really your thing.
Wasn't my thing. It was so radically different, even for spin-offs.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really appreciate it.
I see.
I mean, tactical games are definitely not for everybody. Especially when that's, I think, part of why Fire Emblem did eventually got popular was when because they're very intimidating is the thing. And part of what made Fire Emblem become more mainstream was Awakening made a concerted effort to be less intimidating. And, some people might say, they dumbed it down, but they made it more accessible in a lot of ways. And I still really like Fire Emblem Awakening, but many tactics games are, they're not very forgiving. If you make a mistake, you can often screw up a half an hour longer mission and you have to start all the way over.
I actually think I actually think Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the better ones about balancing challenge with accessibility. Because, one example will probably stand for all. Final Fantasy Tactics does have permadeath, but it's a permadeath that you can prevent. Not by rewinding time like in the modern Fire Emblem games, but when a unit goes down, they have like a 3-turn timer, and you can use a Phoenix down on them during that time to keep them alive. Also, most of the units are just units you created yourselves, but there are characters you might not want to lose. There are actual characters in the roster that you might not want to lose, but the bottom line is they managed to keep that element of danger that keeps you careful when you're figuring out your strategies. And they do it without necessarily punishing the player too hard for their mistakes. Why was the door moving with the blocks?
Because
it was half a door.
Yeah, because each block had half the door on them, and you had to push the blocks together at the right angle in order to get to the end.
I don't know why I'm asking about how the physics of that work in this nightmare dimension, but whatever. I like how this entire Flower Kingdom is basically just based on being high off poppies. When, people have been making jokes about the mushrooms in the Mushroom Kingdom for years. It's just you know what? We're gonna show you what a game that plays like a drug trip actually looks like, and what we got was the fucking
Eternal Darkness
Wonder Power system. What? No,
what?
No. Eternal Darkness is just a game made of 1,000,000,001 Psycho Mantis encounters. That's what that is.
And you don't think Psycho Mantis wasn't influenced by psychedelic substances?
I always thought Eternal Darkness was paranormal, but apparently it's just drug related.
Yeah, I mean, but you can get a bad trip. It happens.
Well, a lot of the insanity elements in Eternal Darkness are based on making you think your video game is glitching. So it's that sort of thing.
Drugs are clearly not working enough.